Welcome, everybody. You're here with Jennifer and Andrea. Can you please, as you're joining us, please drop in the chat where you're joining us from? Love to hear where people are tuning in from. All right, let's get into it, everybody. So you are here for Build a Year of K-12 Digital Signage and Social Media in 1 hour, featuring our lovely Andrea from Social School for EdU. My name is Jennifer. I am the Growth Marketing Manager at Rise Vision. We have Andrea here. Why don't I give you a chance to say hi to everybody, and then I'll go jump into what Rise Vision is and what's on the agenda for today.
Hey, everybody. So excited that you are here for us. We're going to record this, and Jennifer is going to be sharing a lot of great resources, but really excited to be seeing all of these states represented. We've got a lot of great stuff to dig into as we get started.
Awesome. All right. So what is Rise Vision? If you're brand new here, welcome. We're super excited to have you. But for everybody else who's coming from Rise Vision, again, great to have you. So Rise Vision, we are the all-in-one platform for digital signage, screen sharing, and emergency alerts. And we're helping schools communicate, teach, and improve safety. Andrea, why don't you introduce everybody to Social School for EdU?
Yeah, I'm in purple because that's my color. Social School for EDU was founded back in 2014, and we really help schools tell their story on social media. Look at that jacket. We help your stories shine on social media. So we work with schools in a variety of ways, but one of the main ways is just training your staff to be those confident storytellers. We've got a membership program with over 450 school districts across the country and into Canada and beyond. I've got a book called Social Media for Schools, and then I also host a weekly podcast where I get to talk to so many people across the country on what they're doing with social media. And so you can check that out wherever you listen to podcasts at Mastering Social Media for Schools.
Yes, that's a great podcast. We did an episode which feels like forever ago, honestly, but about how you can share content back and forth from social media to digital signage. This is not our first time working together, I'm so excited that we're back together. All right, quick agenda. So we're going to go through a couple of things, just a little housekeeping. If you have any questions, put them in the chat. We're going to try to answer them live or during as we go through. But if we don't have time, we will have dedicated Q&A session at the end. So we might save them till then. Like Andrea said, we are going to be recording this. It will be sent out with a couple of different resources. And we also have a survey after the webinar. If you fill that out, you'll be entered to win a $10 gift card. So for the agenda today, we're going to be talking about batch content, how it works, and why it's beneficial for schools, specifically really busy administrators, how batch content for social media can be shared on digital signage, so how you can reuse content in more than one place. We're going to do like a batch content workshop where we go through and create a calendar all together. And then we're going to go through some tools and resources. And then we also have that Q&A at the end, like I said, where you'll be able to ask any questions that you might have. So let's go. Andrea, I will turn it over to you.
Yeah, so batching content. Okay. I don't know if any of you do meal prepping. I don't. I should. But it's the same process when we think about our social media content. It's trying to take a chunk of time and really batching out content that we can share throughout the year. Most schools obviously don't lack great stories. They just lack a great system, right? And when we batch, it allows us to stay ahead of the calendar, and it makes it really easy or easier to be consistent across social platforms. So we're really excited to share that. So some of the benefits, I don't know if you've ever been like, oh my gosh, what do I post today? Okay. We want to reduce that stress. And so batching content will help that. It really does free up your time. So I know that most of you do social media or your signage as part of your job. That's not your full-time job, right? So if we can make this part of your job a little bit easier, it allows you to have time to address crises, to address emergencies that happen, and to address all of the other things that are on your plate. It really also allows you to get ahead of the game. Okay. I know that with some of the batching that I do, I batch out through Christmas. And oh my gosh, to start the new school year, already knowing that I'm going to be able to make it to winter break, that is a good feeling. It really promotes some of the consistency across not only social media, but some of your digital signage. And it makes delegation easier as well. So when you know what to expect and what you're trying to create, you can ask for help in an easier way. It really does help align also with some of your school goals. So that transparency, that celebration, that engagement. I'm not sure about you, but some of those days to celebrate can be the vein of your existence because it's hard to keep up with all of them. But you want to do a great job of celebrating them and knowing ahead of time instead of it's 3 p.m. and you forgot that it's Custodial Appreciation Day. That's a pretty good feeling. We're excited to share some tools with you. And then this is really great for both small and big schools, right? And then if you are a solo communicator, this is really going to be helpful because it's going to give you some method to the madness so that you can feel less overwhelmed and just more strategic as you plan your content.
Yeah, that's a great overview. Thanks. Do you know what I realized? We should ask everybody. Is anybody already batching their content? Drop in the chat right now if you use this method, like batch content for your social media, batch content for your digital signage.
Yeah.
What do we got here? Valerie says somewhat yes, but she's not that far ahead. All right. Amy Sparks says they batch content for social media. Rose says unfortunately no. Rose, you're going to get a lot of insights today. Learn how to do that. Maya batches for social. Albania says yes for social media, but not for signage. All right, we have some tips to get to help you there. All right, cool. I like the example of like meal prepping because it's exactly what it is. It's a similar concept for sure. And you're really just preparing yourself and setting yourself up for success, I think, with batch content creation. All right. So we're batch creating this content. How can it also be shared on digital signage? So digital signage is a great way to foster a sense of community in your school, but then also to expand the reach of your existing social media content. If it's good enough for social, it's great for signage. Content like photos from events or different achievements, student achievements, staff achievements, quotes, student work, student and staff profiles, those are all really great things to have on digital signage to create that sense of community and engagement. And sharing on both channels, both on social media and digital signage, is a great way to use that same piece of content in different ways. So, for example, if you have a Facebook post where you're celebrating a student award, you can take that content and put it on a student achievement presentation or vice versa. The content can really go back and forth. And then, so displaying this content on your digital signage throughout the building, not only does it reinforce that sense of pride and visibility, but it's not just for parents. So students are seeing those things and they're seeing their achievements being celebrated. That's really big for them. But it also makes your social efforts more visible to students and staff who might not follow your pages. Not everybody's on social media. Not everybody's on Facebook now. The younger kids, they might not be on Facebook. So you're able to share those efforts and expand that reach for them.
Yeah. And I just want to add to that, Jennifer, with the algorithm, it is so frustrating because even when people choose to follow your page on Facebook or Instagram or other places, they may not see it. And so digital signage is such a great way to basically elevate, and what we say is work smarter, not harder. And so being able to put that in multiple places, and obviously you might put that in newsletters, you might put it on your website, but the digital signage throughout your buildings, it's just a great place to be able to make sure that's getting in front of even more people.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially if you're using social media as a way to communicate with students' parents, having it on your digital signage just amplifies the message and gets that message across so much easier. The other thing you can do with digital signage and to share your content is you can use Rise Vision's Facebook and Instagram integration, and literally it will just show your Facebook or your Instagram feed on your digital signage. And then you can also share like your follower accounts or encourage people to follow you as well. Lots of different ways to get the content on both channels, both platforms. And so let's just do a quick overview of batch content. So Andre, you had a great little spiel on there, but it's the practice of creating a large amount of content in one session and scheduling it out over time. Instead of creating posts or presentations daily, you plan them ahead of time in batches. So when we're thinking about batches, we're thinking monthly content, weekly content, and then either by theme or by day. I'm going to break it down. The first one I'm going to break down for you all is monthly. So, monthly content can be used as anchor posts for your digital signage. You start by identifying your school year themes, back to school, testing season, appreciation weeks, different holidays. Those kind of really round out the corners of your strategy. And then you can look at things like national awareness campaigns. So these are really big in K-12 schools. Kindness Week, Read Across America. There's built-in content from celebrating those weeks so that your digital signage or your social media always has something fresh and new going on. The next thing that we can look at is using monthly content or monthly themes as those anchor posts. So we're highlighting those campaigns, we're highlighting holidays and key milestones, but then we can also set up things like auto updating templates from Rise Vision. So it'll be like a countdown to back to school, a countdown to Halloween, countdown to Christmas. So then you have very engaging content or dynamic content, but it's based on that monthly theme. And it doesn't have to be just holidays or major campaigns or awareness campaigns. They can also just be internal milestones. Maybe you're counting down a school anniversary or construction progress or a new program that you're offering. There's lots of ways to use this content as that big picture monthly anchor for the rest of your content. All right. Does anybody have any questions about that monthly content and what that looks like? All right. Andre, I'm going to turn it over to you to talk about weekly.
Yeah. Now diving into weekly content, and this is something that I teach a lot on because if we can use some recurring content themes to keep both your screens, your digital signage, and your feeds consistent, it really helps provide great engagement. It also gives your audience something to look forward to seeing. You could call them campaigns. I usually just call them features. So, like weekly features. And this is my trick for doing some of these things, taking a short amount of time and trying to batch some of these things out. For instance, right now I'm doing some new staff features. Okay. So this is a new time of our beginning of the school year. We like to get these faces. This actually, Kayla was just featured this morning on our page, although I had that scheduled out a couple weeks ago. And I did that right at 6 a.m. this morning. What I like to do is gather some of that information, and I'm a competitive person. So I like to set a timer. Okay. It keeps me off my phone. I set do not disturb, right? I shut my office door. I'm not at a school, so I get a little less distraction maybe than you do at your school, but really just trying to stay focused for 30 to 45 minutes. And then knowing that, okay, I've got these 4 or 5 new staff members. I'm going to create the graphic and then I'm going to schedule it out. Okay. So it's almost like a little competition with myself of getting as much done in that 45 minutes as I can. I'm going to give you some different examples, but we can do student spotlights, we can do classroom shout outs and other things. And then also just thinking about weekly reminders. I, again, probably look at these things on almost a monthly basis, but certainly maybe on a Friday when things are winding down for the week, you can look ahead and see, okay, what's going on next week that I would need to be able to schedule out and get that information out either on the digital signage or social media. And then I can do that all at once so that I'm not scrambling every single day. And this has helped provide so much more. I like to call it work-life harmony. Okay. There's no such thing as true balance because you're always one way or the other, but we've got to get a method to the madness, and weekly has certainly helped. The new staff feature is something that's certainly pertinent right now. I wanted to provide a couple other examples of some features. Staff features. These can go throughout the school year. This one happens to be from Reading School District, and they got some personal pictures from the staff member. They're just doing a spotlight. You guys, this adds so much engagement on social media. And again, it can also highlight them on your signage. So a weekly staff feature that just recognizes the people that make your school incredible, makes those staff members feel the love. Student features. I'm guessing that your school probably recognizes maybe weekly, maybe monthly, some type of a student recognition. So this one, for example, was a Wildcat Wednesday student spotlight. Okay. Nick and Aubrey were recognized. We keep the graphics fairly simple. In the caption, we might write why they were nominated by a staff member. And so, again, a student feature is really something you could think about for this school year. It's simply asking your staff, hey, let's nominate a student that really shines in some way on whatever you'd want to call it. They call it student spotlight, but you could call it whatever you want. That's another thing that you gather those submissions. You schedule them out ahead of time, and you can schedule those out right in Meta Business Suite, which is free. Okay. You can purchase other things. And it sounds like also with Rise Vision, you might be able to tie some of those things together to make sure they show up in both spots. But that's really powerful. And then Throwback Thursday. Who in here is doing Throwback Thursday? I want to hear it in the chat. These are pictures from old yearbooks. And look at that school spirit. I am guessing this was in the 70s, but it's so easy. We take pictures from old yearbooks and we put those out every Thursday morning. It really gains a lot of engagement. You get people, alumni, to be engaged. They start tagging people, right? They're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that you shared that picture, or that's my mom. So if there was one that I could suggest that is so easy, especially if you're a one high school district, really fun to be able to share Throwback Thursdays. And usually you end up adding new followers. I've got a few more examples that are a little more specialized.
I just wanted to say, like the Throwback Thursday, who doesn't love that? But and again, with digital signage, you could schedule the Throwback Thursday. So every Thursday comes up, you can schedule your student feature. There's bunch of other tools that you can use. But did you notice in the chat, like a couple of people said that they are doing the throwbacks. Valerie says that they randomly do them, normally around events like homecoming and sporting events. So Valerie, maybe you bring those in weekly, and it gives people something to look forward to, right? Because they know that there's going to be a great black and white photo coming. So it's something for people to get excited about.
Yeah, and I think it's a great way to show engagement. Even young kids like to look at the big hair, the old cars, the old technology. Yeah. But the other thing to remember, especially with social media, is that 70% of your community doesn't currently have students at your school. Okay. So they're not like actively part of the website or anything like that. And because of the algorithm, they don't see everything, but they may be very interested in seeing some of those old pictures. So it really does help draw those folks in and give them something to talk about. I often go to school board conventions in Wisconsin here, and the school board members, they love Throwback Thursday. So it's a great way to show engagement to a little bit maybe older generation to get a tie back to your school. Valerie asked, do you just throwbacks from yearbooks, or how do you get them from elementary schools? Valerie, great question. Most of the districts I work with are K-12. So if you are using elementary, you might even ask your followers, hey, do you have a favorite image from your elementary days or something? And they could submit that to you. So that could be an option. Most of ours were gathering from yearbooks, but there may be some other areas where you might have some images that you could use. Okay. So a couple other examples of some weekly features that you could do. One of these, I believe it might have been before COVID. They did a what did you learn this week? So it's a simple video, and videos do very well. Obviously, videos can play on the digital signage. Jennifer, you can share sound or not?
Yes. Yeah, you can share videos on digital signage, and lots of people do as well.
Okay. Yep. So videos do well on social media. It's a different way to interact. And so what about having students sharing what they learned this week? Often when parents ask their kids, what did you learn today? They say nothing. Of course, that's not true. And so just featuring maybe a different classroom, a different age group, you could be like this school district and share something they learned this week. Obviously, maybe that's a little bit harder to batch out ahead of time if you wanted it to be what actually happened that week. However, you could do and batch create 4 of those videos at a time and then schedule those out. And then another thing, again, to engage some of your followers that may not be in the district anymore, is an alumni spotlight. So like, where are they now? Your school is producing amazing humans that go out in the world, beyond your little school, or in my case, my little school. We have 280 students, K through 12, so it's pretty tiny. But our graduates are doing amazing things. Featuring alumni can be another great opportunity. Obviously, you need to get a little information, so you're going to have to figure out a way to get some of those stories in. But that can be another great thing that, again, once you gather 3, 4, 5, 6 of those, you schedule those out. And then I like to pick a time. So let's just say my alumni spotlight is always going to be Wednesday evenings. Okay. I scheduled those out for Wednesday evenings. I got those scheduled out for the next 5 weeks. I know that I don't have to worry about those until after that 5 weeks is done. So I love that.
Awesome. All right. Does anybody have any questions about the weekly content planning? Let's move on to daily. Digital signage thrives on timely updates. So daily content is perfect for digital signage. Think of things like lunch menus, bell schedules, when the bus is coming or what bus is loading right now, countdowns between classes, that kind of thing. That's all type of content that you need on a daily basis on digital signage. One of the tips for daily content is you can integrate your Rise Vision with Google Calendar, Sheets, and Slides. So you have auto updating displays. So this allows you to create seemingly new content every single day while it's actually pre-scheduled. And it also just makes it easier to create and produce that content. And then some of the social content can be shared daily too. If you have birthdays, if you have a smaller school, then you could probably do a daily birthday. Whereas if you have a massive school, maybe you're not doing a daily birthday, but maybe you're doing like a weekly birthday shout out list. You could have other daily content like quick facts or morning announcements. And then what you can do with that is you can also use the auto updating templates for animal of the day, fact of the day, joke of the day, anything like that. And it's great content that people love to see that you don't have to create. It's just pre-scheduled. So from that, if nobody has any questions about the daily or the weekly, what we're going to do is I want to share, instead of this presentation, I'm going to share this spreadsheet and walk everybody through how we create a content calendar that literally has hundreds of options for your digital signage and for your social media, and how we created that super quickly and super easily. So going back here, we talked about our monthly content. So these are school themes. And I don't know if all of these themes, some of these might be a little bit far-fetched, but whatever. Whatever works for you and your school. September, we really want to promote attendance. October, kindness and bullying prevention. Gratitude and giving in November, perfect for Thanksgiving. Giving and reflection in December. Fresh starts in January. So we can come up with a school theme. We also can list all of the holidays. So any holiday that's going on in that month, let's add it in there. We can see November, we have a lot of holidays. December, quite a few holidays. And these don't have to just be Christmas. You can add in whatever holidays make sense for your school and your students. The national awareness campaigns. So there's a ton of campaigns that are always going on that are especially related to K-12. So these are great to build out for the monthly. And then those anchor posts. So staff spotlights. This is perfect because it's back to school. So for the whole month of August and September, maybe as you're going back to school, you have a staff spotlight and everybody gets to know who's in their school. And these monthly content as the anchor posts, they really depend on the national awareness and the holidays and the school themes. So they build off that. And then we also have here, we have different Rise Vision auto updating templates that you can use to build out that monthly content planning. One thing that I wanted to mention here is, so we are coming up with these ideas. These are all kind of things that we've talked about, but the goal isn't to make this even more work for you. So we want to use batching, but we also want to use automation and AI to make this easier. So before I go on to the weekly, I want to just take a step back and talk about how do we do this? How can we make this easier? Let's use ChatGPT to make this easier and to create this list. So this list that I'm sharing with the monthly, weekly, daily, this came from AI. So I'm going to share the prompt that I used. So I'm creating a year-long content calendar for a K-12 school district. for their digital signage and social media. I always find that it's really good to give ChatGPT who they are, who do they need to be here? And then can you give me a list of monthly content ideas for each month? So August to July, because that's my school year. And I want to include key school year themes. So I give them a couple of examples, relevant national or education awareness campaigns. So Kindness Week, Black History Month, Attendance Awareness Month, and then suggested anchor post ideas that could be used on digital signage and social media. So quarter of the month, monthly challenge. I find like the more information you give your prompt in the beginning, the better it's going to produce. It's like a brand new intern is how I imagine ChatGPT. You have to give it a little bit of information. Anyway, so for my prompt, this is what it gives me. It gives me tons of ideas. So I have the theme, I have those awareness campaigns that I showed you, and then I have those anchor post ideas. So it does that for each month. One thing I noticed, and I reiterated on my prompt, is update this to include holidays like Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas. So now it's bringing in those seasonal holidays. So I have a really strong foundation for my content calendar. Okay. So then going back to our sheet, so we talked about the monthly and how we got that. Now what we're basically doing is we're layering on with the weekly. So from the weekly, you can see the month, theme, holidays, those are all from monthly, right? So I've copied it, and now I'm going to do my weekly content. So I have back to school tips, staff spotlights. We talked about that. In December, we're going to do student recognition spotlights because now we've been in school for a little bit. So now different achievements are coming up. October is kindness and bullying prevention month. So I'm going to have kindness tips. It's National Principal Month. So I'm going to have a principal spotlight. It's Digital Citizenship Week with Common Sense. So I'm going to have digital citizenship tips. And I'm doing that for each month. Veterans Day in November, I have my veteran spotlight. Maybe I'll do that weekly for the month of November. And yeah, just for each month, we're building off the monthly theme and we're just building out some weekly ideas. All right. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go in and we're going to produce daily content. So again, I'm taking the month, theme, holiday awareness campaign, I'm copying those over. And then I'm taking my weekly content and I'm copying that over. And now I can brainstorm my daily content ideas. Kids are coming back to school. They need a back to school tip. I'm going to have a schedule day. So every day on the digital signage, it's going to say whether it's day A or day B or however your school is. That's how my junior high had it. They had a little board at the front of the school and it had A B. Needed it all the time because I didn't know what day it was. We're going to have lunch menus, right? We're going back to school. We need lunch menus. We're going to have after school activities, countdown to school or back to school countdown. So for each month, each weekly content, each monthly bucket, we're going to produce a daily content idea. Countdown to Halloween, countdown to Thanksgiving, countdown to winter break. Those ones are super easy content ideas that you can throw in your digital signage or have one post on your social media with a countdown. That's super easy to do. Then we're going to take it all together and we're going to come up with our content calendar. So you can see I put the month at the top and I put my theme, my holidays, national campaign. I put all of my monthly posts, weekly content, and daily. So now this is my framework, my content calendar for the year. And it took me less than an hour to come up with. So now I know for the month of August, my theme is back to school. There's a back to school campaign, of course. I'm going to have welcome messages. I'm going to be highlighting expectations and policies so that kids know they're starting off on the right foot. But for my weekly content and my daily content, I'm going to have back to school tips, staff spotlights. I'm going to start early with the birthdays, right? Everybody loves to celebrate their birthday. And then I have my daily content. So that schedule, the lunch menus, event calendars, and then that countdown. And then as we go through the months, one after the other, the content, some of it stays the same as an anchor, but then we have new stuff that rotates in. So in the month of September, now we have student spotlights, but we keep birthdays. Birthdays are a core component every week. Maybe when September starts, we start a mindfulness moment. So that continues on every single month. But then October, countdown to Halloween. So that rotates in for the month. But then in November, we have the countdown to Thanksgiving. That rotates in. So this content it's getting scheduled on a daily basis, but it changes because you have new people, new birthdays, or anything like that. But yeah, it sets the foundation and it creates the plan for the whole year. So, does anybody have any questions about the content calendar? I know we went fast. I hope that it's self-explanatory on how this all gets filled out. And literally, you can fill it out with anything for your school, but it gives you just a great idea or a great starting point. So, I'm just going to look at the questions here. Julie, do you have set days of the week for certain posts? And where do you have that listed? Ooh, that's a good question. So I think it would really depend on your content calendar and like what you work for your school. But Andrea, do you have set days of the week for your posts for social media?
Yeah, I think it's going to depend for you. You can just create your cadence. I guess if I was doing, let's say, weekly birthdays, I might do that on Monday to make sure that it captures everybody ahead of the game versus after. When it comes to social media, I just pick a day. Obviously, Throwback Thursdays go on
Hmm.
Thursdays. For me, I do a weekly staff feature, and those are Monday mornings. My student feature is Tuesday nights. So, Tuesdays are that day. I'm going to be starting an alumni feature. That might be Wednesdays. So I just pick a day that works in regards for those weekly posts. And if you can just think through how and what you're celebrating, you can play around with times that you post, especially when it comes to social media. Not quite as important on your digital signage. You'd want that for the day so that it's celebrated there and people can see it. But I think you just pick a day. And what I love about social media and also with digital signage, you want to be able to celebrate the everyday moments that are going on in your school. And so that's going to be shared. But having this content kind of pre scheduled and predetermined helps give you that peace of mind and that framework of really good stories and really good engaging content that you can share.
Yeah, exactly. Marissa, is there a template on Rise Vision for displaying the daily schedule? Yes. So we have a couple of different options, Marissa. You can link it to your Google Calendar, you could link it to your Microsoft Office calendar, or you can upload like a CSV file. So there are a couple of different templates for showing the schedule. Actually, now that I'm reflecting on everything that I just said, are you wanting a template that shows like if it's a day A or day B? I think we would have to set up something a little bit. We would have to probably set up something custom for if you have a day A or day B and if there's different rules for that. Donna, is there a way to schedule some of these items on the Rise Vision so you automatically loop into the sign schedule? Yes, there is. We can make it so easy with the scheduling feature. We have a replace, we have an override schedule. If we have time at the end, Donna, I'll try to do a demo of that. Okay. And then, sorry, Marissa, we have the AB days. Let me take that away and talk to our UX team on how we would do that, and I will get back to you. All right. So I shared that we created this list, like we really started our batch content using ChatGPT. So, Andrea, do you want to talk about your custom ChatGPT because it's
Just
more than just the free version?
Yeah, this isn't a custom, it's a customized prompt that you can use. It's still a prompt that you can just plug in. And so you're going to have to paste this. We're going to give this to you, but this comes from Alice Seufert. She is from Matamidi Public Schools, and she has really taught me a lot about these themes. Okay. But these themes, and Jennifer did a great job of describing it, but it was a little more in general of K-12. What about incorporating the brand? And Alice has actually done a lot of teaching on the brand archetype of your school and also your vision, your mission. Maybe you have portrait of a graduate that you can incorporate so that that would help basically define some of these themes and some of these social media post ideas that would really pertain to your school. So this first prompt is really going to help you understand that brand, that strategic theme, and that messaging that you want to do. So we also have some examples of what comes out of this, but this whole first part is the prompt. It's going to ask you item by item to just clarify this. It probably takes less than 15 minutes to complete. So I'm really going to want to encourage you to do this. And again, it all comes from Alice. And then if you scroll down just a little bit more, once you have that, there's a second prompt that asks to just using what you know about the district, can you identify 10 themes? And we like 10 because kind of June, July are a little less active on our social stuff. And so we're really strategically telling through 10 months of the year. But you could do 12 theme and then do a short summary about how this is in action in the district or school, which means, hey, if let's see your theme for the month is perseverance. Okay. We want to showcase how our students are really rising above and beyond circumstances or things that they're dealing with. It really helps define how to find those stories because you are one person, but you have a whole staff that has access to all of these students and staff that have these stories. And so this prompt can really help you define those themes and how to explain them. And so if you just scroll down just a little bit more, Jennifer, here's some of the examples of what the outputs are going to be. It'll share actually 50 social media content ideas for schools. It goes into reels and posts and other things, stories that you can share. And so I'm just really excited for you to try this. I went through this for my little school district that I still do social media management for in New Auburn. I found out that our brand archetype is a caregiver. Like we are really about caring for the whole child. We really are like a family. We're like so small that it does feel like a family. And this was able to provide me some themes to cover each month, but then also some social media post ideas. And if you have questions about this, Alice has her contact information. You can also just view it in action or on their Instagram page, on their Facebook page as well. But I'm just going to encourage you to check that out as another tool that really fits in well with what Jennifer shared. What I love about what Jennifer shared is I think many of you get that peace of mind when you can see that year at a glance and be like, okay, there's some method to the madness instead of, oh my God, what am I going to post today? We have those fears. This is going to help alleviate them. So I really hope that you dive in and take some time to look at how this would apply to your school. Everybody's brains work a little bit differently. And so yours might be a little different. You might have a project management tool. My team uses Asana. There's Trello. There's a lot of different things that can play into this as well. But start with where you're at, okay? Take a deep breath, start with where you're at, and just know that it's going to get better, okay? And so maybe this year we're going to get a little bit more planned out. By the time you hit year 3, you're going to have this thing dialed down to a science and be feeling really good. So I just appreciate, Jennifer, that little exercise, and we're trying to give you some tools to work with. And again, Valerie, those prompts, yes, they would work in Gemini or any other type of prompt. And maybe that's a good reason why I don't have a custom GPT built, because some of you are Google-based schools. And so you should be able to use the same prompt in Gemini and get some similar responses, as well as Claude or any of the other AI tools that are out there.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. We're going to turn it over for questions. We have 10, 15 minutes. If anybody has any questions, please drop them in the chat right now. No questions. Everybody's, yeah, no batch content creation. I got this.
Jennifer, they're just waiting for the email that's going to give them all these tools so they can start working. Or they started using AI already because they're like, okay, this is a great idea. I'm going to start. And if you're already working, good for you. That's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Okay. I had the one question. Oh, where did my mouse go? There was one question about how to schedule items in Rise Vision. I'm going to pull up Rise now and show you. So we actually just we've done a couple of webinars, but we just did one where we talked about this. So I'm going to pull up my schedule from that webinar. And so who was it that? Donna. Okay, yes, Donna. So is there any way to schedule some of these items on the Rise Vision so the items can automatically loop into the sign schedule? So yes. So we can pre-schedule things and have them drop off when they're overdue or like no longer relevant. So ignore that this is talking about workplace safety and other kinds of things. But from my schedule, what I can do is I'm going to go in here to this item. and edit playlist item. So instead of timeline where it says show all the time, I'm going to toggle that off. This basically means that presentation will just continuously loop down the playlist and it'll just continue to get shown throughout the day or however many items you have. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the edit timeline, and now I can change the start date and end date. Let's say you have a countdown timer. So let's pretend that this is for a countdown. I can go in and I can say, I'm going to start my countdown on the 18th. Now, let's imagine that this is a back to school timer or countdown, and our staff go back to school on the 18th, and then the students come back the following week. That's my scenario. So then I'm going to go in, I'm going to choose the start date. So my staff go back on the 18th. The end date is going to be, let's say that Friday, because then the following week school starts. It's going to be all day. I can have my countdown show up daily, weekly, monthly, yearly. So I'm going to have it show up daily because I want it to be shown daily. And then I can press apply. So now that presentation, my countdown to school starting, it's going to just show from the 18th to the 22nd. And then once the 22nd happens, it's going to just drop off and it's no longer going to show up in my playlist. Does that answer your question? Marissa, how do you integrate your district Facebook page? So we have a integration now with Meta. So Meta is Facebook and Instagram. So if you go into your presentations and you type in social media, there's a couple of different options here, but one of the things that, or one of the templates that you can choose is the social media waterfall or social media single. So let's try the waterfall. And basically what you're going to be able to do with this template is you're going to be able to show your entire feed, your Facebook feed, just as a presentation. So we'll go in here, and then this component gives you the option to choose if you're going to have a waterfall or a single post. You can choose how many posts you're going to show, if you're going to show the caption, if you're going to hide videos, if you want to shuffle the order, so you want to shake things up a little bit. You can change the speed, hiding old posts, and the refresh interval. But what you're going to do, oh, sorry, right back there, is you're going to add feed. And now you can add a Facebook page, a Facebook profile, or an Instagram account. So if you wanted to add your district's Facebook page, you could add that profile or that page, however it's set up. And then it's just going to pull that content from there, which is pretty exciting.
Super cool.
Yeah. And it just makes it super easy because now if you're already producing content on social media, you can literally just pick one presentation and it's going to show it. And now you don't even have to cross schedule things. Tiffany, can you schedule something to show every other day each week? 1 second. Some of the scheduling does get, I feel like it gets a little bit tricky, but maybe not. So I'm going to go to timeline and I'm going to turn that off. And then my start date is going to be today and my end date is going to be forever and ever. And then, so what I can do is, let's imagine that this presentation is your schedule. So we're going to have it show every other day. So the reoccurrence is going to be daily, and we're going to have it every 2 days. So with that, it will show up every other day. However, the one thing that I'm not 100% sure about is if you didn't want it to show up on the weekends, because this is going to include every other day, including the weekend, Saturday and Sunday. So that might mess up how it shows up. I'm not 100% sure on how to mitigate that, but I will take it to support and ask them. Or Tiffany, you can email support@risevision.com and they will send you a probably much more elegant solution, if there is one, with a little bit more detail for you. All right. Does anybody have any other questions about batch contenting for social media? We have this wonderful resource here, guys, just full of knowledge about social media for school. So any other questions about that? Andrea, do you have any other little tips or tricks?
I don't think so. Just the last page, I think, is just, we do have a 25-26 calendar. We're going to give you that link if you want to download that, but that is our days to celebrate. It doesn't include everything. You could write a whole book this thick that has everything, in the world that you could celebrate, but those are the days that we've put out there, so you can access that. That'll be in your follow-up information as well. We don't want you to, again, stress out too much about that, but it's good to take a look and see, what do we want to talk about? What do we want to celebrate on signage or social media before the school year gets started and everybody gets busy? So that resource might be really helpful. So we're giving you that, as well as the content creation workbook and the little thought partner AI tool from Alice.
Yeah, and actually, to be perfectly honest, everyone, when I was creating that content calendar, I downloaded this PDF that she's created and I used it for my basis because I was like, oh, this is perfect for my daily content and creating those. What do I need per month? That list made it super easy. And you could really take that list and your ChatGPT prompt, put them together and create a solid schedule. And again, it's not even going to take you an hour. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you
Oh,
guys all for showing up
John,
today.
sorry.
Oh.
John is a first-year communication specialist. Oh, I'm so excited for you. He says, all fantastic information for this first-year communication specialist. This, along with Andrea's book, Social Media for Schools, have me ready to go in year one. Oh, that's so amazing.
That's awesome, John. Thank you. I wrote that book. I wish I had that book when I got started back in 2014, because I've made all the mistakes, had all the overwhelm, and it certainly has gotten easier over the years. So you got this, John.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing, like when we're looking at this content calendar, like this is cleaned up and it looks super, but when you start back at the monthly, allow yourself to go through the exercise of brainstorming these ideas on a monthly, weekly, daily basis. And just, it's okay if it's messy. It's okay if there's duplicates in there. Just go through the process and it's all going to work out. You can using a Google Sheet is perfectly fine. You don't have to upgrade to Asana or Trello or anything crazy. You can use a piece of paper and some sticky notes. Just start with whatever you've got and yeah, take a little bit of time to go through it, but keep it simple and keep it at a level that's manageable for you. Like perhaps you don't need 50 daily items. That's a lot of content. Don't commit to anything like that. Maybe you just commit to, what did you start with, Andrea? You started with Throwback Thursday and
And
staff spotlight. And
yeah,
what would you say are like the very basic social media posts if somebody wanted to get started? What would be the 5 or so that you would be like, this is the reoccurring theme that you should continue with? Or you should.
I think highlighting your staff is really important, because that's many reasons why people choose to send their kids to school, right? Is being able to highlight your staff. I think Throwback Thursdays is a great way to engage your community. And then obviously some type of student feature, because you want to be able to highlight what your students are doing, both in and out of the classroom. Certainly, if you have sports, if you have an athlete of the week or something like that, that can do really well for engagement. You don't want all your content to be sports related, but that could be really powerful too. And I just say with social media, if you can start with once a day posting and then work your way up. I average about 3 posts a day during the school year for my little school district, and that's getting content from staff members of what's happening in the classroom. But certainly those pillar type of things that we can batch out are that foundation and help really give a steady flow and a cadence to the storytelling that we do.
Yeah. Yeah, start simple, start with the basics and then layer on. You can maybe start with one post a day and then layer on. Next year you do 2, year 3 you do 3. For digital signage, student achievements, whether it's academic or athletic, are huge and just really one of the starting points for digital signage. Student achievements, birthdays. Most students love to have their birthdays showcased. Do you remember Cannon Falls? We did that joint case study about them. And
Yes.
and Tim said, no, my students think it's mortifying to have their birthdays up. Everybody else loves having their birthdays shared. So birthdays are huge. Lunch menus. Again, when I talk to schools, some students, that's one of the most important things that they look at every day on the digital signage is lunch menu. What's going on after school or before school? If you have different programs, you can highlight those on digital signage and very important. And then what would be I think those are like the main, if you're just starting out with digital signage and you're looking for a content idea, I would say birthdays, student achievements, athletic and academic. lunch menus, and after school activities. Going to be huge and could be really changing for your school.
Yeah. Jody asked, how do you feel about FAFSA or scholarship deadlines?
Oh, I definitely would have those on digital signage, especially if you're trying to get students to apply. You could put a countdown slash reminder of, hey, this is the deadline. And then you could even do a presentation with, hey, these are the things that you need. 1, 2, 3, just so that they're prepared and they have that information. Even maybe
Yeah.
even with QR codes, so they can just boop, take a picture of it.
And Jody, I'd say on social media, Instagram stories would be a great place for that because a lot of the students aren't on Facebook. I don't recommend a lot of graphic type things on your Instagram feed. I like those to be more pictures. So if you've got information on deadlines and all of that, stories live for 24 hours. You can put direct links in stories. So that's really nice for your students and parents. Look at that as well. And then your stories from Instagram usually tie directly to Facebook.
Well, Andrea, thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited that we got to work together again. Yeah, just a great time. I hope everybody has one little nugget that they can take away about batch content or about digital signage or about social media. Yeah, it's just great. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, awesome, guys. Have a great school year. Can't wait to see all of the things you celebrate.
Yeah, so it's going to be a wonderful year with so much on the digital signage and social media. Thanks,
Yeah.
everybody, for being here. See you later.
Bye bye.